it, fashionistas. How you doing? Oh, come on, people. It's warm, you're in Paris, you're here to talk about sustainability and fashion. That is your energy. One is confused. Help one out. Hello, fashionistas. We can do this. This is actually one of those conferences where you come to talk to each other. It's not one of those ones where you sit and we just talk at you. We actually encourage you to speak to each other. So it's okay to talk to me. Is that all right? You don't need to be sleepy. It's okay. It's okay. My name's Lovelda Vincenzi. I'm here to host this session with you on circularity and transparency in fashion. Are you in the right place? Yes. You are now. Even if you weren't before, you're like, she's kind of cool. I think I'll stay. At least that's what I'm telling myself. So as we know, fashion is actually one of the most polluting industries. There's a lot of waste in the value chain, and circular fashion is necessary in order to be able to meet a lot of the environmental challenges that we're seeing nowadays. We also need to innovate. We need new materials. We need companies that need to be much more transparent. We need companies that are delivering on what they suggest. So in this particular session, we're going to take the opportunity to take you on a journey in fashion. First, we're going to look at the circular economy. Then we're going to have a look at repairability and how do we repair things more frequently. And then we're going to ask some key questions about transparency. Does that sound like a plan? These folks over here are my friends. You guys over there don't seem to like me. I don't know why, but it's okay. You're just hurting my ego just a tiny little bit. And I feel like some of you guys just needed a little bit of coffee. Am I right? So let's kick off. Our first talk today is about one of the best examples of circular economy that we can see in fashion, and that is how it was built despite having some challenges around the economy. It's the co-founder and executive director of the Fondation, a US and Ghana-based nonprofit working at the intersection of environmental justice and education and fashion development. Please give an incredible warm Change Now round of applause for Liz Ricketts.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Lovelda, for the wonderful introduction. I'd like to begin by asking you to close your eyes. I'd like you to imagine your favorite beach. Maybe this is somewhere you've been only once. Maybe this is somewhere you go every year. Or maybe, if you are lucky enough, you live there. Do you have it? I'm pleased to see all of you participating. I don't see any eyes. All right, so with that in mind, I'd like to ask you to now please open your eyes. The video's up. If we could get the second video. It's more impactful if you can see. Sorry. So, what would you do if this was the state of your favorite beach? What would you do if this was in your backyard? What would you do if these tangles of clothing wrapped around your feet while swimming or capsized your boat while fishing? What would you do if this was your reality? Next slide, please. So before we take a moment to move on and explain what you are looking at, I'd like you to make a mental note of the specific action that you would take if this was your reality. OK, thank you. So, how did we get here? It's pretty simple. See, we don't just have a linear economy, we have an oversupplied linear economy. The fashion industry extracts finite resources to produce an infinite amount of stuff, over 100 billion garments a year and counting. And we are wearing this clothing less and less. This is in part because clothing is so cheap that it doesn't matter if we get any use value out of it. This is in part because most of us don't know how to care for our clothes. And this is in part because clothing is no longer durable. It is not made to have many lives. And at the root of our disposability culture is this fact that we have accepted as a species that clothing depreciates the minute that we touch it, which is a rather depressing take on humanity. Most of us don't have to confront the consequences of this destructive mentality, however, because we can just donate our clothes or put it in that recycling bin down the streets, out of sight, out of mind. But if the vast majority of us are donating the old and buying the new, and if the new is just as cheap as the old, then where does all of this excess end up? This is Continental Markets, the largest secondhand clothing market in the world. Ghana itself is the largest importer of secondhand clothing globally, and Continental Market sees 15 million garments a week in a country of 32 million people. Continental has two truths, both equally important. One is what you have seen so far. Continental sees 15 million garments a week, all of it exported by the global north under the guise of charity and recycling. And what we have found is that 40% of the average bale leaves the market as waste. That's millions of garments leaving this market every week. And unlike Europe and the United States, Ghana does not have somewhere to hide this clothing. Ghana does not have landfills or incinerators, and Ghana does not have the audacity to export the problem away for others to deal with. No. This is the end of fashion's oversupplied linear economy. This is where excess hits the ground. Secondhand clothing waste clogs gutters, causing an increase in cholera and malaria. Clothing is burnt in piles. Clothing is burnt in piles around the city, these mounds of waste transforming into air pollution. I myself have gotten asthma from doing this work, and Accra has some of the worst air quality in the world. Every week, thousands upon thousands of garments end up on that beach, wrapping around themselves and forming tentacles that capsize boats and that brush against children's legs as they swim, scaring them and sometimes injuring them. The people who live here are attacked from both sides, with clothing flowing through the open gutter and out to sea, while the ocean currents pick up even more clothing from the bottom of the ocean and push it onto the beach, where it becomes embedded in the sand. This is the away, and waste is not hidden here. Here, waste is made visible, and it is felt. It is felt most violently by girls like Huzaima, Hubeida, Humu, and Hamdia, pictured here in our No More Fast Fashion lab. Before working with us, these girls labored as kaiye, a term that means female headboarder. As young as 6 years old, kaiye are climate and economic migrants from northern Ghana, where increased desertification sees these girls traveling further to fetch water and their family farms without enough food to survive or enough cash to survive. These girls come south and, sorry, I'll grab water. A little nervous for this part, it makes me emotional. These girls come south in search of a better life, and they end up doing familiar work, carrying loads on their heads. Except the loads that they carry in Continental are not like the loads they carry at home. See, water, it moves with you as you walk, swishing back and forth as you step forward and down. But in Continental, these girls use their bodies as forklifts to carry 55-kilo bales, a solid brick of fashion that does not move with their bodies, but that extends over a foot in front of their face and a foot behind. They carry these loads for over a kilometer, relieving themselves by throwing their head forward, the bale falling with a thud, often breaking their feet. For this, they are paid a measly 30 cents. This is back-breaking work. Their spines are crushed under these bales. Girls die because their necks break under the weight of this clothing, and sometimes the bales fall backwards, crushing their babies to death. At the end of a hard day, numb to the pain, these girls go home to a concrete floor next to the dump sites where much of the clothing that they carried, clothing that they are killing themselves for, ends up. We have several programs with KIA, including direct relief, chiropractic care, and an apprenticeship program. And in reflecting on their labor as a KIO, I have heard multiple of these girls ask themselves, was I a slave? Now, the second truth. While Continental makes visible fashion's waste crisis, Continental did not cause this waste crisis. That waste was exported by the global north. Continental never claimed that the secondhand clothing trade was charity or recycling or diversion or circular. We did, those of us in the global north. Now, I know it might be a leap for you given the devastation that I have just described, but Continental itself is very much a model of sustainability, and it is my favorite place on the planet. Continental is the largest reuse and upcycling economy in the world, successfully recirculating, repairing, upcycling, reselling over 25 million garments every month, diverting far more clothing from landfill than any modern resale platform. Now, typically, when it comes to conversations about circularity, the global north is framed as the one doing the innovation. But if you think about the ingredients we need for a circular economy, we need a mindset, we need a skill set, and we need infrastructure. And of course, for that infrastructure, we need investment. Continental has two of the three, while I would argue that the global north has none of these ingredients. We'll talk about the mindset first. So the vast majority of consumers shopping at Continental, they do not conflate quality with conformity. They do not expect every garment on the rack to look exactly the same. And because nearly everyone in Ghana can sew and knows their measurements, having grown up taking cloth to a local tailor and co-designing a bespoke wardrobe, they look at clothing as material that can be transformed, altered, customized. The people shopping at Continental do not view clothing as disposable. Citizens in Ghana do not think of fashion in terms of seasons, they think of it in terms of generations, although this is starting to shift, because the secondhand clothing trade also exports culture. Now, the skill set. This is really where Continental shines. 30,000 people work in Continental tirelessly 6 days a week doing the actual work of circularity, and yet they've never heard the word circular. People like our friend Abena and our friend Kweku. Abena is a retailer. She buys bales of secondhand ladies' tops from the UK. And these bales are already quite expensive. But once you factor in all of her other expenses, the per garment cost to manage this waste is $2. And Abena does not know the quality of the bale until the minute she opens it. Because fast fashion has lowered the quality overall, Abena is almost never making a profit. Even though she is in debt, she still takes the time to wash, iron, and repair what she can. And Kweku is a tailor. He also works with us at our No More Fast Fashion lab. Kweku is a master upcycler. What Kwaku does is he buys waste from retailers like Abena, and even though he has no control over what this waste stream will look like from week to week, he is able to create 600 units, 1,000 units, 5,000 units of the same design, garments that he sells on to retailers throughout Ghana and across West Africa. About 3 months ago, Kwaku invited me to see his baling process. He had just finished 600 units of split-panel polo shirts. He had resized them, added a diagonal insert and piping, and he was about to ship them off to his customer in Burkina Faso. I once worked in the fashion industry, and I can tell you that these would retail for about 65 USD in New York City. But Kwaku, he is paid less than $1 per garment, total. That has to cover the cost of buying the waste, paying his employees, and covering all his other expenses like thread, rent, and electricity. Needless to say, Kwaku is operating in debt. Like Abena, he never makes a profit. He earns just enough to return the next day and try again. And yet, do you know what Kwaku did? Before shipping off his order, he took the time to have his work ironed and folded. When we went to a baler, I watched as Kwaku took out a few garments at a time, delicately running a hand over them to smooth out any wrinkles and to check for stray threads before he put them into the hydraulic press. Compared to this, the way that clothing arrives in Continental is shameful. Let me grab another drink of water, I'm sorry. So compared to this, the way that clothing arrives in Continental is shameful because nothing from the United States or Europe arrives folded or pressed. It's just thrown into the bale, compacted and squished, arriving wrinkled, unwashed, and oftentimes with stains. Kwaku operates within the survival mode that fast fashion demands, and yet he still has the self-respect to not pass on waste to other people. I think about this every single day. The depth of his integrity both motivates me and it breaks my heart because it's just so damn unfair. If we think about carbon baking, it is Abena and Kwaku who are saving. They are saving us. We are the ones spending wildly here in the global north, and they are busy saving. But it is the savers who are losing. The Kaye are falling dead in the streets. Abena and Kwaku are going into debt, their creativity and skill set becoming nothing more than a survival technique. Which brings me to the work that we do and the mission with which we act. A mission to catalyze a justice-led circular economy in Ghana. Tangibly, we do a few different things. We've built the No More Fast Fashion Lab adjacent to Continental where we buy waste from retailers like Abena and we transform it into new materials and products. Materials like fiberboard, which we use for furniture and insulation, or lamps that we make from t-shirt waste and metal scrap that we pull from the same dump site where the clothing waste ends up. We also have our programming with Kaye, including our chiropractic research and treatment program, where we're studying the physiological impacts of carrying this waste. And we have an apprenticeship program where girls like Huzema, Hubeda, Humu, and Hamdia have come to work with us, while other girls are working with entrepreneurs around town. Our focus being on putting girls in jobs that are traditionally reserved for men. And on a broader level, we are working on fiber recycling and decomposition for the waste that has nowhere else to go. The goal being to return a year from now wearing a version of the same shirts created by my friend Sel, but made from recycled textiles where the clothing waste came from Continental, is recycled, spun, woven, cut, and sewn in Ghana. And 3 years from now, the goal being to return with the same thing, but where the recycled fibers are blended with cotton and hemp that was grown on farms where the soil has been regenerated using nutrients that came from decomposing textile waste. This is what we are working on, and yes, it all seems possible. But none of it will matter if we do not place the Continental community at the center of everything that we do. Because the root of fashion's waste crisis is not a lack of recycling technology. It is the ongoing industry-wide exploitation that makes disposability culture possible. What is a justice-led circular economy all about? Well, for one, it's about embracing our human and planetary limits. Paradoxically, fast fashion is all about scarcity. The entire industry is about telling you that you can never have enough clothing, that you are never enough. Not only is this toxic, but it's a lie. We have too much clothing. We have enough clothing to last generations. Right now, that's scary, because we are not slowing down, we are not stopping. But it doesn't have to be that way. With an abundance mindset, we could shift our thinking and realize we have enough. We have enough. And we could set our minds to keeping this stuff in circulation via repair, upcycling, and recycling. Second, in a justice-led circular economy, we have a circle with things going around that circle, right? Which means that everyone plays a more equal role. In a circular economy, we can have no top or bottom of the supply chain. Not only does this mean we need to change the way we work together in terms of contracts between suppliers and retailers, but it also means that waste should not be a free resource. We've received several emails from recyclers in Europe who want us to gather up all the waste, export it to Europe for free or for 10 cents a kilo, just so that they can feed the fast fashion industry with cheap recycled textiles. They might mean well, but when people like Obena and Kweku are going into debt to manage this waste, it feels an awful lot like they are coming to the people who've lost the most and exploiting their desperation. And this is not the way to build a circular economy. To ensure that there is no top or bottom of the circular supply chain, we need models that redistribute wealth. A justice-led circular economy recognizes that the most unnatural thing about fashion is not its materials, it is a consolidation of wealth and ideas. We need business models that include profit sharing, and we need to ensure that policies like extended producer responsibility allow for money to move with the material. Unlike what happens here in France, where a tax is collected for waste management, but then clothing is exported as that waste management, and none of the money comes with it. It stays here in France and in Europe. We need that to change to make sure that money moves with the material. If you're in France, I hope you will do your part to push for reform. Finally, prioritize those who have been made most vulnerable by a linear economy. Not only because this is the right thing to do, but because it is the people who are closest to the problem who are also closest to the solution. The 30,000 people who work in Continental, they might not know the language of circularity, but they have a wealth of good ideas. And Ghana does not have time to wait for the global north to get its shit together. This cannot be one of those situations where the global north invests in itself and tells Ghana to wait until it has the solution. No, we need action, and we need investment in the direction of Continental now, because if we do not prioritize the survival of Continental, we will lose it. And I want to end by coming back to the moment when you opened your eyes just 15 minutes ago and the action you decided to take. Are you wondering what you can do now? You can do that. Do what your instincts told you to do. If you were doing that, I probably wouldn't be here. Privilege is the ability to forget, and we cannot afford to forget, because the end of the line must be the beginning of the circle. Thank you.
I'm guessing I go now. That was Liz Ricketts. Thank you. giving us a lot of food for thought, and thinking beyond circular economy being simply something that we're doing here in the global north. That being said, there are things we are doing here in the global north, and I thought it might be a great idea if we shared what some of those solutions are at the moment. Would you like to hear some? Those guys are really into it. These guys are, these lot in the middle here are thinking about it. We're going to get there, right? So the next session, I told you we're going to talk about 3 different areas. We've seen an example of what circularity looks like in an economy that it is not as well off as some of the economies that we are privileged enough to live in. This next part here is going to look at innovative ways to repair and renew clothing. So first, we've got the sustainability and impact lead from Resortecs, a company which enables high-quality textiles recycling on an industrial scale to automatically disassemble garments. So first up, we've got Rawaa Ammar. Then we've also got the founder and CEO of Mud Jeans, which is a fast-growing sustainability jeans company from the Netherlands. In 2012, he started with the idea of lease a jean, and the concept makes it possible for consumers to give back their jeans after they've used it. Please welcome the founder of Mud Jeans, Bert Vincenzi. Hello, hello. I've warmed him up a little bit for you now.
Hi, Paris.
Thank you. You did well.
It makes sense that maybe we start with a little bit more information about what both of your organizations do, but in particular, how you think very differently about circularity, because you've got completely different approaches. So Rawaa, do you mind going first, telling us a little bit more about Resortecs, and then also what is the principle behind your thinking that around circular economy that's different?
Sure. We are Resortecs, recycling, sorting technology. So what we do is we developed a smart stitch. Our clothes are stupid, but we should be smart. So we developed a smart stitch that we use to stitch the garments, and then we apply a smart oven after the use. So we think about it as designed for disassembly, because we are fed up of the linear system. We need a real circularity, because sustainability should be circular. So when you design your clothes to be disassembled, you already avoid dealing with the waste later, because you know where the waste is going to go. And that's why the circular economy is the future. That's why we think about circularity at Resortecs.
It's really cool. So you've started with the end in mind. At the end of this, we need to be able to disassemble it into all of its component parts so we can reuse. But you've got a slightly different approach.
Well, more or less the same. We are Mud Jeans, the first and only circular denim brand in the world. And we make jeans out of old jeans. Today we can go up to 40%. And we also design them to be disassembled. So we try to use 100% cotton, not many more materials, no leather labels, things like that, to make it easier for ourselves to recycle the jeans that get back to us. So how do we get our jeans back? Well, first of all, we give you a €10 discount, or you can lease a pair of jeans. And the idea is that you change your mindset from, do I have to own something, or is the performance good enough of a product? So we are a zero-waste company. All the jeans have to come back to us. We shred them. That's what we do in Spain. We have to still use new organic cotton to make new yarns. We can go up to 40%. But of course, our dot on the horizon is to totally make a new pair of jeans out of old jeans. We're working on it. We are studying it. We are doing tests. And I think we'll get there soon. We made the first proto, and it's going to work.
I'm loving that you're thinking so differently, both of you are thinking so differently about what it means to have a circular economy. What is it about fashion, the fashion industry, though, that caused you to think so radically different? I mean, we heard a little bit earlier about the impacts in Ghana, but for you, Bert, it's to think, let's get consumers to lease their jeans and then maybe return them back. What caused you to think of that as the solution?
Well, because it's the raw material. If we imagine we could get to 100% post-consumer waste-made pair of jeans, that would mean that, for instance, the city of Amsterdam would become our cotton supplier instead of cotton fields. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
So rather, what you're thinking is, if we can change the system right now, then actually we don't even have to go as far for our suppliers. So
exactly.
The longer we go through the process, the better it becomes. Rawaa, what about you? What had you think so radically differently about the way that you're approaching things to say, actually, what we should probably look at is the disassembly and making that something that we can do at scale?
So if you allow me to start with the problem, right? A second just passed. In that second, one truck full of textile waste is disposed somewhere in the world. That's huge. That's equivalent to 34 million tons of textile wasted every year. Not only that causes 1.2 billion tons of CO2 emissions, but also it's worth of $432 billion. So out of all these wastes, 99% is wasted. Only 1% is recycled in a closed loop. And when we say recycled in a closed loop, meaning jeans to jeans, shirt to shirt, not to a rug or a plastic bottle, that made us think this 1% should grow and should grow efficiently. We need to rescue this raw material. We need to keep it as it is, with the integrity it is, reuse it again and again and again in the same geographical location and not need to go all the way to grow cotton all over again.
Well, you're making very compelling arguments, but I'm going to say this. It's called the fashion industry for a reason, right? It's commercial. So they're all nodding. See, they're thinking what I'm thinking. They're thinking exactly what I'm thinking. You're coming here with very smart ideas, and we're on board with your clever ideas. But does it make commercially viable sense for an industry to lease or expect people to bring back the material, or to disassemble stuff rather than starting from scratch? So, Rawaa, what is does it actually add up commercially?
Absolutely. When we talk circularity, it's about the material, sustainability, it's both, ecologically and financially. So if brands adopt Resortecs solution, they can just, with a 35% of their production and return waste and misfits and the cut-off and the unsold inventory, they cut even financially. Anything above that is just pure investment. Let alone talking about the CO2 taxation that we talked about, 1.2 billion tons of CO2 every year. Now the taxation is increasing and increasing more and more for CO2. It's $50 per ton. So I'll let you do the math.
Okay, well, that's compelling. I mean, I'm only quickly doing the maths in the back of my head because that's a big number, but it sounds like actually there's a really good, compelling financial reason. What about when it comes to recycling, reusing jeans and leasing? Does it make commercially viable sense?
It's hard. We are existing now 10 years. We started with this company 10 years ago with the idea of recycling, with the idea of extended producer responsibility, which I think should be at the heart of our economy. Today, we are lucky because the cotton prices, all raw material prices are rising. We use now 40% old jeans, so that's good for us. The shipping from far away is getting more expensive. We try to stay close at home as possible. So things are moving our ways, but it's not easy to do all the return logistics. It's costly. We have to get the jeans back. We have to ship them to the shredder in Valencia, where they shred all those jeans. So we have extra costs, and we are in this dirty industry of jeans, where powerful brands have enormous budgets to do their marketing. We have less, of course. And today, there's another challenge of greenwashing. I mean, all jeans companies have understood today that they have to talk and have to say something about sustainability or circularity. So they just put the green dot and say, we're circular, and it's all bullshit. And what we do is try to be radical transparent. You can find anything on our website. Please go to mudjeans.eu and read our sustainability report, our LCA, the report of our B Corp, our audit. It's all there, it's radical transparent, and it's the only way we can go. But it's difficult, it's not easy.
It sounds like it's a longer-term win, because actually you're ahead of the curve of what's happening. The prices are going up, it's harder to import, and because you've started early, actually your business model is set up to be able to take advantage of those cost savings.
Yes.
So now down to practicalities. How difficult is it to actually engage with your solution? It's one thing to say, reuse your jeans, lease the jeans,
Repair your jeans.
repair the jeans. How difficult is it to actually, in real terms, I'm the consumer, and you're telling me I should reuse.
Well, we're doing it.
Yeah.
We still exist. We have our team is growing, our turnover is growing. We try to do 100,000 jeans this year. There's even big companies coming to us and saying, there was this small Swedish furniture company that said, we want to be circular in 2030, can you help us? And we made a cover for the clip-on. Everybody knows the clip-on, right? So isn't that wonderful that they come to us and work together with us to do something big? And that's what we need. It's a volume-driven business, and we want to sell more jeans. Okay, it's growth, maybe a dirty word. But I hope that when we sell a pair of jeans, that 10 shitty pair of jeans will not be made, and low-quality pair of jeans, and jeans made by children slaves and with toxic material. So that's my hope, that we grow and the others fall apart. So please, wear a pair of mud jeans. We have a discount code at our booth. Come to us. Take your code and get them.
He's selling
help
it, isn't it?
Help us grow.
If you hadn't heard about mud jeans before, you're interested now. You're kind of like, hold on a
it's
minute.
on the other side, over there.
Over there, you're going to have to go and check it out.
Yes.
When we say disassembling a garment, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people here, either here live or watching, who are thinking, that sounds like a really good idea. But I bet it's really difficult to get started for a company.
Yeah.
Rawaa, if somebody comes to you, how difficult is it? Do we have to change our whole production line? Like, who needs to be involved? Is it complicated?
Yeah, I'm ready for your question.
Oh, you're ready? She came prepared for this one.
It's very simple. It's a children play. Imagine a child playing with Lego. They take pieces, they make a shape, they disassemble it because they can disassemble it and make another shape. It's the same, just switch the bobbin. So I have here a little baby jeans made with Resortecs thread. How many in the audience are wearing a jeans today? Can I see hands? Yeah, a lot of us.
It's warm, not many.
Can you imagine that if you use the stitching thread and manage to disassemble it and put it in the several techniques that we have for recycling and sorting, and we have a very high technology that we can leverage 80–90% of the material with high integrity and use this material to make yet another jeans, you can reduce 52% of the CO2 emission of these jeans. That means for just a single pair of jeans, a trip from Brussels to Ghent, for those who know Belgium, it means 35 showers for 35 people for 10 minutes. It means 482 meals for people because we save the land not to grow cotton for every single jeans we are wearing. It's just that simple.
So it's literally just changing. I mean, you've made it sound so easy. If you make jeans, you want to just change the thread to that thread, because then you can have huge savings. That being said, we're talking about the upside of engaging with your solutions and the ease of being able to engage with them. But surely this sort of radical transformation wasn't just a simple walk in the park. Surely there were some challenges to being able to implement a solution like this. But what have you found to be the challenges in shifting people's mindset, perhaps, around engaging with jeans differently?
It still is a challenge today, but it's growing. The idea of how to treat your garments. We make, for instance, seasonless collections. We don't think we need to bring a new model every week, because we think our jeans are very good as they are. Of course, we have to follow a little bit the fashion, and when it's getting a little bit wider or skinny or whatever. But we try to be seasonless. And when we started to do this in 2012, customers were looking at us and saying, "And where's your new collection?" And we said, "We don't have a new collection." And they were very surprised. Today, when we say that, they look at it and they think it's actually very smart, because we can deliver very short term from Tunisia. We can react on the market. We can produce what the market asks for instead of overproducing, which is also a major problem. So everything is solvable. Everything, you just have to be there and just start doing it. And we do it, and we've proven that we are still here. And we get every day from our 52,000 followers on Instagram who raise and say that we are wonderful. So please follow us on Instagram, by the way, and like everything we do.
You're following on Instagram, you're going across
Facebook.
to the booth to check it out, you're getting that discount code, it's all happening. When it comes to changing the way that manufacturers manufacture, what have been your challenges with getting people to think about the disassembly? You say it's as simple as changing thread, Rawaa, but people, not enough companies are necessarily using that thread in the first place. What has been the uphill battle for you?
It was not easy to change mindsets and just convince them that, guys, you just need to switch the bobbin. It works on your current machines. It works at home with your grandma's sewing machine. It works in your manufacturing machines as well. The problem was also the concept of circularity, and the mistaken was sustainability. And what I really think is the problem is the EPR, the slow adaptation of the EPR that Liz talked about, the extended producer responsibility. Garment makers are not, let's say in Europe, they are not in Europe. The sourcing material is not in Europe. The wasting disposal areas are not in Europe. So out of sight, out of mind. But if this extended producer responsibility was done to really follow your product from the moment it started to the moment it's over, then you will be forced to put regulations to collect the waste, to follow it, to understand what's happening. And you have a right as a customer to know, then to have a conscious and responsible purchase. So it's really the ideology about really understanding how circular is beneficial. The technology is there. As Bert said, we need volumes to really make an impact. We all here agree that we need change now. We need to make impact. We don't want to do 10,000 jeans, 3,000 jeans, 30,000 jeans. We want to have the whole industry getting circular. Yeah. And we have to do with everything that is around.
So you bring me on to a really interesting point, which is we want to scale. So where's the solution for scale? We've got a room full of fashionistas. We've got a whole bunch watching from all around the world. How do we scale? What do you need in terms of support to scale these sorts of ideas?
Yeah, that's a big issue, and it's very hard because we are in this world of big jeans companies with huge volumes of marketing, and we're this tiny company trying to shout out. So I've been talking to a lot of marketeers and people that know really how to market things, and our promise is a difficult one to explain. We are radical transparent. We use less CO2 emission, we try to recycle, we try to pay the people well in the industry, we don't use toxic material. All that is a long story, and I only have 10 seconds to explain to you that you have to buy my jeans. So to be honest, I don't know. And since we don't sell millions of jeans, I'm doing something wrong. So if there's a marketeer here who can help me and tell me how to shout out, and in the 10 seconds I have, tell me, okay, that you know for sure I have to wear these jeans instead of all the other ones, then I'm happy to hear so. I don't have the solution, honestly, but we're growing. We're doing something right, but I need 20 minutes to tell my story, and with slides, and then after that, you will all say, okay, I got the message, I'll never buy another pair of jeans.
So it's the complexity of the story. It's understanding.
Yeah. It's a long promise.
Yeah.
You know, it's the CO2 emission. Who cares about CO2 emission when you buy a pair of jeans? You want your jeans to fit well. Your ass has to look good. You know, that's the first thing, and the price has to be good. And the CO2 and the children and the toxic material, it's all
secondary.
Yeah.
So it's a mindset shift, and it's also finding the right language. I mean, we've got spaces like this that we can speak into those places. Yeah. What about you, Rawaa? What do you think is needed to be able to scale? If it's as simple as changing a bobbin, how do we get the bobbin changed for more people?
So the thing is that creating an ecosystem with everybody, because each one of us is part of the change. Consumers, governments, manufacturers, brands, sorters, recyclers, we have to build this network. And once we build this network, we unlock a huge financial and, most importantly, ecological benefits. So we need to build this network. We need to connect with each other, with Mud Jeans, with Aigle, with everybody in the room, with the marketers, with the end consumer, with the designers, with the government. I hope somebody from the government is here tonight.
And do you think it's possible for I mean, we've talked a lot about your organizations individually. How important do you think collaborations are? Because in the fashion industry, it can be quite competitive. This is my stuff. I don't necessarily want to do something. If, you know, so how do we get past those sorts of silos? Because we don't want to lose creativity. You know, people still want to have that feeling of, don't you fashionistas, you go out, you've got something cute on, right? We all still want to look cute. So how do we get past that and have that balance of circularity and doing good for the planet, as well as people being able to enjoy their clothing? We don't just buy it just to tick a box. You know, there's a personal feeling to it. Rawaa, what are your thoughts on that? How do we make that shift so we still have the balance of feeling great, but also doing great?
In simple words, I think just getting the knowledge, just knowing what we are wearing, where it's going after what we're wearing, making choices as a manufacturer, as a designer, as a consumer. It's already part of the situations, or part of the battle. Like the discussion afterwards, I'm very excited to hear about transparency. Knowledge is key in that. And when you have the knowledge, you will have a conscious buying and manufacturing and industry, right? I think that's it.
And I love that at least with Resortecs, you don't have to change the design. It's about reimagining the way that you do things. But I love what you said earlier as well, that you don't have different, you don't go seasonal like everybody else. Do you think that that's something that could be taken up across the industry as an additional win?
Yeah, it's all about, overproduction is also a big issue, you know. We have sales and we try to push consumers to buy things that are I don't know, but it's not necessary. We try to use the module from Abdelaziz, which is good is the new cool. We hope and we think it should become very cool to wear something with a story, where you can be proud that you know where it comes from, who made it, who made my clothes. You know, that's the story. Consumers have to start thinking about, what am I wearing? Does anybody know here where their clothes comes from? You're wearing jeans, do you know who made them? No idea, that's where I go. So let's start by asking questions. Ask the companies who made it, where is it made, how far away, with what kind of materials. That's our obligation as consumers. We as consumers, we have the power. We spend money. So if I give my money to a company, that means I'm saying, you are doing well, I like what you do, keep doing it. That's what you do. So we have a vote. You vote with your money. Try to vote well, try to vote better, try to inform yourself. It's all there. You can read about companies, what they do. If they don't tell it themselves, then you know something is going wrong already. So vote with your money, please.
I love that idea of like wearing clothing with a story, because it's not something I'd considered before. You know, rather than wearing just for style, wear for the story. But you mentioned a couple of times around the overuse or the overproduction of clothing. Rawaa, when we spoke, you shared some crazy statistics about overproduction. Can you share those with us? Because it shook me.
Yeah, sure. So fast fashion industry is very well known of having so many seasons in the same year, maybe 5, maybe 6. You buy the garment first week, 3, 4 weeks. Later you go to find it in another color, you will not find it. There's a new collection in place. So there are between 20 to 30% of every production made is left as unsold inventory. This unsold inventory, the brands don't know what to do with it. It costs them more to keep them in warehouses, so they just simply burn the problem. They set fire to it. That's not talking about what's left behind as cut off, because the jeans, they need to cut off. There will be 10 to 15% of that amount as a cut-off waste. Not talking about what happened at the manufacturing floor, because they're making the jeans, they make a mistake, they make a garment, a jacket, they make a mistake, oh, it doesn't work. So that's between 5 and 10% already at the manufacturing floor that doesn't depart the country. How come what we see in the shops is not only that? And I just want to ask a question to the audience, the same one I asked you, Lovelda, in the preparatory interview. If you buy online and you get your garment at home, and you try it. It's small, it's big, you didn't like the color as it is. You send it back. What do you think would happen to that one? How the companies are dealing with that, treating that? They're just going to throw it away because they cannot market it again, and they will put it with a pile of unsold inventory, either send it to Ghana to have a problem other way, throw the problem to somewhere else, or just set fire to it.
You've both given us a huge amount to think about, and we can only skim the surface of what, why repairability, what it looks like. For people who have now had their interest really seriously piqued and want to find out a little bit more, Rawaa, how do people find out more about what you guys are doing or connect with you?
Absolutely. You can follow Resortecs on all social media. Strick, the co-founder, will be pitching tomorrow in the event, and we have a booth. I will be there all day to receive your questions, discuss more with you, and we have a life cycle assessment comparing the different cycling, recycling, sorting technologies. So please go to the website and download it and have a read.
Fabulous. And Bert, you've told us a lot already. We know we get 20% of your jeans. we know you're up the road. You just up there. But if people want to connect with you more, or they've forgotten because they didn't write it down, what's the best way to connect?
Buy our jeans. Wear our jeans and tell your friends what you're wearing and why you bought them, and tell the story. You become our ambassadors.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much for joining. It's been Rawaa and Bert.
Thank you.
So we've skimmed the surface a little bit about our next section, because in that session we heard a lot about transparency. Where does our clothing come from? What is it made of? Who was part of the build process? And so this session is really looking at transparency and traceability to help consumers like ourselves change our mentality around our clothing. First up, we've got a knight of the French National Order of Merit, believe it or not, CEO of Aigle International, who has launched a large industrial and commercial transformational plan for sustainable fashion. Please welcome Sandrine Conseiller.
Hi.
We will also be joined by a 28-year-old agricultural engineer and co-founder of Clear Fashion, the app that allows you to choose environmentally and human-friendly clothes, Trabelsi. So, ladies, let's talk transparency. Reem, I want to start with you. You've got an app that basically lets us know everything we need to know about various different clothing. Can you tell us a little bit more about the app and how it works?
Yeah, sure. So, hello everybody. So, as it has been said before, there is a lot of problems in the fashion industry, environmental problems, social problems, and as it has been said also by Bert and Maya, that their consumer should know before buying clothes. And we totally agree, knowledge is the key, and knowledge gives you power to make change in this industry that has a lot of problems. So that's why we created Clear Fashion. Our mission is to bring more transparency and give trustable information to consumer, so that when you hear about brands telling they are sustainable, telling that they act for change, you can try to see if it is true. You can check their commitment on our app. So we analyzed more than 100 brands. We already work with Aigle and Jeans, by the way. And you can also get the score of the impact, social and environmental impact, directly labeled on the clothes. There is already 30 brands that use it, and thanks to them we can give this information in a more larger way.
I think the key thing as well, as you said, it's completely independent, because we spoke a little bit earlier about, putting a green label on things is the cool thing to do right now. We'll just tell everybody it's sustainable and it's green. Brands can't influence that with you, though, can they?
No.
Yeah. Or
no, I can't say.
From a brand on the side going, no, it's not actually possible to have any influence.
Well, our mission is to be is to give information that you can trust. So we verify all the information that has been given by the brands, and then we evaluate them, because, you know, there is a lot of complexity regarding the production of clothing. So you don't know what is ISO 14,000, you don't know what are the processes. So thanks to this, we can score, and thanks to a methodology of evaluation that is scientific, we can score and tell you in a more simple way that is this good or not. And we verify everything for consumer.
Fantastic. It's useful to understand that it's independently verified. The brands, Sandrine, I saw you going, no, we have no say. We have no say at all. We provide information, the score is given. We cannot have any impact on what that score is. Aigle is steeped in a history of sustainability. Sandrine, can you tell us a little bit more about that? You're not new to this. You've been in this space since the beginning, pretty much.
Yes, first, thanks for having us on behalf of the nearly 2,000 teammates of Aigle, you know, working hard to make fashion a force for change. And the team who's working with Dream is here in the room, so you can talk to them. Impossible to influence them, that's for sure. So I can tell you about Aigle the way I discovered it when I came on board. First, the brand is very old. It was born in 1853, so you can imagine it has been through a lot. And at the core, there was what we call today sustainability, durable fashion. Why? Because it's made out, the first core product that you can see in the alley over there, the rubber boots, it's made out natural rubber. So no plastic over there. It's pure rubber coming from the tree, and it was at the very beginning. The second point is that the founder of Aigle had the idea to make product durable. So this philosophy has stayed until now. Everything we make is meant to last a lifetime, from the boots to the jacket, as we are outerwear. And the last point is that the brand is very linked to nature. And that's why, because the product is meant to go outside. And that's why when we started to have the mission by the shareholder to awake a bit the sleeping beauty, we decided with the team to set up a plan based on these core values, the link with nature and the sustainability at the core.
So we're here to talk about transparency, and I'm really curious, especially from a brand's perspective, what is the business case for telling people all of this information? Surely it can't be easy to collect, so why would you even think, let's hang it all out there for people to judge us on, regardless of whether or not you came from a sustainability background? Is there not a risk? Is it good business?
It starts with the way you want to develop the brand. So for us, it was very clear, sustainability was at the core. It is our development plan. 3 steps in the plan, very simply put. We start with carbon footprint. We said textile industry, if we want to stay until 1.5 degrees, which we want when we see the hot in this room, we have to reduce by 46%. We have a commitment. Me and all the executive committee have that in our objective. 2, we put skin in the game with the people. We all did, or much of us, our carbon footprint, personal. That's the way I stopped eating meat, for example. And 3, we work on the product. And that leads to your question. We work on the product. We change radically the way we produce and the garment. We move to recyclable polyester because we do a lot of jackets. We innovate. For example, the T-shirt I'm wearing now, it's an idea from ChangeNOW last year. It's the future, people. It's made out of recycled polyester, so a good start, and 30% pure CO2. A bunch of people we met last year are recycling CO2, and with that, they made yarn. And we made a T-shirt that another member of the team is wearing actually today over there. And our idea is to make it commercial. All this is a huge effort for the team, a huge effort for the company. So we have to make it known. And that's where transparency has a business case. Because when you interrogate people, they want to know. So we have to give them the tool to, as it has been said before, to vote when they decide to buy. And for that, we have to be transparent. That's the business case.
So, Reem, your app is looking at not necessarily outing organizations, but giving visibility of what brands are doing. Why do the consumer, do you find there's key things consumers are looking for? Where's the drive coming from?
Yes. Maybe to reply to your question, I don't think we need to have a business case to make fashion more responsible. I think it should be responsible. It means that some clothes you buy are not responsible, are not sustainable. That's a big problem. So first of all, I think there should not be a business case to make things good. Yeah, I think that now brands work with us because they see that some of them are leaders. They want to make change, first of all. People that are here, so Aigle, Magins, they go further than the regulation, the need of consumer. Then you have also brands that just respond to the client's demand. And as Clear Fashion, we have a community of consumers. We have 300,000 users. So they ask to brands directly to be more transparent. And thanks to this, we can really communicate it to the brand. And as a brand, you should normally reply to the demand of your consumer. Yeah, so that's how we do. And so what we can see is that the demand of consumer is increasing regarding transparency. And we know that because we did a lot of surveys with our consumer, we know that what interests them is social impact of the clothes. So it has been made in a good, with workers that work well in the well condition, environmental impact, animal welfare, health of consumer, or health of the worker. And they really want to know more about also where it has been made. So we have a lot of studies about this, and that's why we share this kind of information. We create our methodology of evaluation, and we update our mobile app and the information that we share to fit with the demand of consumer.
So yours is very consumer demand driven. It kind of leads me into the next question, which is, we talk about sustainability, we talk about transparency. What are we being transparent about? Because there's quite a few different things we can measure. So what are the key things we probably should be measuring? Reem, what do you find consumers are most asking to know when they're saying we want to know we want to be working with brands that are more sustainable? How are consumers defining that?
Yes, so thanks to the fact that we have a mobile app, we have all the analytics, you know, and thanks to this we can really see what people look at and where they click. What we see is that most of the people are really interested by social and environmental thematics. Then it depends what they can click in climate change, some other in energy, it depends. But most of the people will click both of them. You cannot see environment without seeing social. Mm-hmm. And then we have some part of the consumer that will look at animal welfare, which are vegan or vegetarian. And then you can see also that there are a lot of parents that will care about the toxicity of clothing. So it really depends. For us, our objective is just to give the information that needs consumer, and everyone, you can look whatever you want. Some other people, for example in France, will look at the place of production because they want to help the creation of an economy in the territory. So they will look at the places of production.
That's awesome. It's useful to know what consumers are looking for. But as a brand, measuring all of this stuff, what do you prioritize? Because there is a lot of information to be radically transparent, and it's not necessarily always easy to get. So at Aigle, what have you guys been kind of prioritizing in terms of the data points that you're collecting for transparency?
Yeah, it's pretty the same. We have decided to work on first, where is the yarn made? Where does it come from? So really, really back at the source, because it's according to our philosophy, we have our own factory, so the source is something that appeals to us. So first that, then where is it made? Where is the quality control done? Because it's very important as well to have that. And it's important as well for us to be on the carbon footprint, because it's part of the commitment we have. We cannot do it without the customer. So you have a possibility to measure that as well on the tool we have developed.
I mean, what I'm loving is there's a lot of overlap, but it's always interesting to hear, because we say be transparent. Well, that can mean all manner of things, and you know, what is it that consumers are looking for, but also what can brands get? Is there such a thing as too much information? Can we go, you know, could we overwhelm the consumer? Could we be putting out information that's actually detrimental to a brand? Do we think there's such a point where maybe we don't need to say that? You know, from Aigle's point of view, what do you think? Is there a point where there is such a thing as too much information?
I think the point for us was that drowning consumer into information is not giving information, it's just drowning them. So that's why actually the team who's here worked super hard together with a partner to try to, let's say, put complexity into something simple. And we developed actually something super simple, so I will show my show and tell, my turn, as my colleagues. On a lot of Aigle product now, it's a proof of concept, actually in store, so I put the socks because it's easy to carry in my bag. You have a QR code, you just scan it, and you will know exactly, so I'll do it, direct, if the network works. You can know where it's coming from, the yarn, where is it done, so this one, the yarn comes from Portugal, it was made in France, checked in our factory, this I know by heart actually. And the carbon footprint is kind of the equivalent of 5 kilometers by a car. So that's why it's important that it's durable. And that's what we have chosen to make it super simple for the consumer so that everyone can have a say. Because as it was said before, today everybody wants to have a bit of green warnish. So at the end of the day, making the consumer responsible for I scan, I check, I decide is the best way to get, you know, approval and buy from the consumer.
I love that it's easy, and I love that you've put it on the garment, because regardless of where you are, if you're in the shop, most of us take a phone with us pretty much everywhere we go now, right? So if you're in the shop, you can just scan it and know immediately and make those decisions not just based on price or how it feels, but also based on sustainability factors. How are you doing that in the Clear Fashion app? There's a lot of data points that you collect. How do you make that really easy for people to actually understand? Is it overwhelming in terms of transparency, or is it really simple to navigate?
Yes, actually, it's quite funny because as a consumer, you can feel like there is a lot of information, but also very few. Because actually very few are really trustable and very clear. You can hear a lot of brands talking about sustainability, but you don't know why, really. Actually, it's written sometimes, sustainable, but why is it sustainable? If you search, you will not find any information that guarantee or more factual information. Some brands, you can go into their CSR reports, it's like 80 pages. I don't know who read this, actually. So I think there are some information, but how can you do actually to make it clear, to make it available at the good moment also, and depending on this, you need to product a kind of display that will be fitting with the experience, the client experience. So at Clear Fashion, what we do, for example, on our app is you can have 4 scores, so environmental score, social score, animal welfare score, health score. It's on 100, sorry. And then if you need more information, you can click. And then you can have a lot of information regarding energy, components, fabrics, everything, you can get it. And so in this way, we can make it simple to get the information, but if you want to know more and get more factual information, you can click and know more. Yes, and I think another thing is, because it depends on where you will use it, I think mobile app is very good in a physical experience. What we see is that there is a lot of people that also buy online. So in the shop, when you're buying online, you will need also that information in the product page. And it's the same. You will need a very simple information, and then be able to click and to know more. And this can give you more trust of the information, rather than just saying nothing or saying sustainable, for example.
I'm loving that balance between the amount of information and how does the consumer interact with the information. Who's read a CSR report, like in detail ever? No? Okay, we're not going to the bottom of CSR reports. So I love that idea of high-level information on the product pages, on the product itself through a code that allows people to easily see the information. Now, let's talk a little bit of the nitty-gritty. How the heck do you even collect all of this data? It's a lot of different points with a number of different stakeholders. So where do you start? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked the question because that's the tribute to the work of the team. So on a given garment, say the jacket that is on my chair over there that I'm obviously not wearing now, given the heat, there is around 150 type of control and information together. At Aigle, we have around 1,000 reference. Again, you do the math. This one is an easy one. It's a huge amount of information. So like we did for this T-shirt, we team up with partner, Foodbridge, who has a blockchain system that guarantees the accuracy of the information that the supplier is giving to us. And it's like, again, we start from the source and we go backwards to now, to the actual product I'm wearing. Mm-hmm. So this is the way we manage to get something accurate. And it's very important as well, because as we talked before, the regulation is as well evolving. So it's important for the consumer, they ask for it. And I agree with Riem, it was, to our information, it's around 75% of them who want us to be responsible for the supply chain. But the regulation as well is moving, and for God's sake, it's moving. Then we're going to be ready. So it was very important to put the effort, but it's a strong effort. And that's why we need to talk about it and have people apply for it and then vote when they buy product.
So it's really about working with partners in order to grab that information. And I think that's helpful in some way, especially for larger brands where you don't need to do it just by yourself. There are other organizations out there that will support you in collecting the data. From a clear fashion perspective, how do you work with brands around collecting the data? What's that process look like?
Yes. So Clear Fashion is a transparency actor. So what we do is transparency and verifying the information that brands give us. So we don't do like a Foodbridge or partner, for example, searching for the data. What we do is when you send us the data that Foodbridge has given you, for example, we can just analyze it and then share it. So we do this with all the brands. Because I think it's really nice what you've done. Really, I hope that a lot of brands will be that transparent. But actually, this is not how the market is. Actually, a lot of brands are not sharing that kind of information. And it's very, that's too bad because they have some information. And at least I guess that all the brands know their manufacturer, the first range manufacturer, they know the certification, they know the components, they can share it to consumer rather than just maintain it in their own back office. They can share it to consumer. And so if they share it to us, we will check it and give it to consumer. And the difference, I guess, with what you're doing is that we share the data of all the brands. It means that it makes it comparable for consumer. So you have only one tool that you can use where you can find all the information regarding 600 brands. And you have this guarantee that it had been checked by Clear Fashion. Because some brands also can share information, some part of information, another part. That's what you can see when you see the CSR reports, for example. Some brands will share this kind of information. Another brand will will communicate about another thing. What we do at Clay Fashion is making it standard for consumers so that you can compare.
We've spoken about so much, and I think I've got so much more visibility and understanding of what transparency is. I think there's a real call to action for individuals, brands. We can, as individuals, we can take personal responsibility for learning more about where our clothing comes from, and there's resources for us to do that. And also, as brands, it's possible to make this information more readily available. I can only skim the surface in the time that we've got, which is slightly frustrating for me. But I'd love for you to let the people know how they can find out a lot more if you're around for the next few days and people who are here live can connect with you. So, Sandrine, how do people find out more? Is there a report they can go to? Are those in the shops now? Can they just go and check them out for themselves?
Everything that I show, the scan, are in the shop. This one is a proof of concept. Watch for our anniversary next year. We need a bit of time to our PhD to make it scalable, but it's on the way. It's on the way. So everything is available on the shop. You can go on our website. You can follow us on Instagram. I will repeat, because we are a force for change. And what is very important, if we want that sustainability move at scale, we are a 300 billion brand. We have scale, so we need more and more people to follow, because we will need sustainability. We have it. We need desirability. I wear this skirt because I love it, not only because it's made out of organic cotton and I can scan the QR code. And we need rentability. And the more we will be, the more successful we will be. So go, many reports, and to the credit of CSR report is good because some people are auditing us. And they can check that what we say is not bullshit, and I think it's important too. So you don't have to read them, we make summary, but for some of other people, it's good guarantee that we talk the truth.
To go back and have a look through it. Reem, for people who are now like, Clear Fashion app, need that in my life. Bad singing, sorry folks. More to come though. Where do people go and find out more?
Well, you can find the app on the Apple Store and Google Play Store. You can, if you want to talk with me, you can talk with me now, or on LinkedIn, you can connect with me. And also, I guess that tomorrow you will find the Score Clay Fashion directly on the shops where you will buy, so that would be easier to get this information.
And to the point, if you buy any egg on the website, I can guarantee we don't burn it, we clean it, and we put it back in the store. So just get a try.
Thank you for that clarification. Transparency at work here. Ladies, thank you so much for joining. It's been Reem and Sandrine. You're welcome. That brings us to the end of this session. I need to go and stand outside where it's a little bit cool. Does anybody else feel like they've been having a sauna experience for a moment? So I'm going to wrap this up really quickly. My name's been Lovelda Vincenzi. I'll see you later on today. Have a fabulous day wherever you're going next.